What, sports fans? I went to the Duke game. Halftime comes, and the kids who are all jammed up underneath the baskets, who are on their feet, they start walking off of risers. There's risers, like a church choir has risers. There's risers. There are no seats, folks. Guess what? The big myth is that Dick Vitale would have you believe that these kids are so incredibly enthusiastic that they are just on their feet cheering nonstop during the game, and then they actually have a place to sit. There's nowhere to sit, folks. There are no seats. I could not believe it. I absolutely could not believe it. So, I mean, there were seats where I was. I was up, I was further up in the arena, and I was in a regular seat, which was a very uncomfortable seat, by the way, because it's a really old gym. It's like the Palestra in Philadelphia. So it's a really old gym. You're jammed into the seat. Not very accommodating at all in terms of that. Great energy in the building. Beautiful building. It looks like kind of an Ivy League campus. So beautiful building, but just very old seats in the building. But I just absolutely could not believe that after everything he had said about they're on their feet and the Camden Crazies, that he fails to actually finish the thought or the sentence, which is they're on their feet because we gave them no seats. Wow. Okay, so I just thought that was like, I thought that was a huge thing. I just thought that was a huge thing, like in all of the pumping up of Duke. I have never ever heard anyone say, as a matter of fact, the Camden Crazies are on their feet because we have not given them any seats. I would just like that to be noted for the record. There is nowhere to sit, and I think that's important. But I think it's that kind of bias and kind of over the top enthusiasm that Dick Vitale has, but he does his in a pretty positive way. It's different than like Tommy Hyacinth, or whatever his name was, used to do with the Boston Celtics. Former player, former coach, and then he became the announcer up there. And a lot of people used to hate the Celtics back in the day because Tommy Hyacinth was just out of control with his bias for the Celtics, and that's why people couldn't stand the Celtics. And I think that Duke and the Celtics find themselves in some of the same kind of mix of just having announcers that are just so biased that it just starts to really turn everybody off completely. But so at any rate, that's kind of my big issue with the whole Duke program. Now, turning our focus to the NFL. We've got we got two big issues that I do want to deal with at the end. Again, that's going to be both Brady and Manning. Brady in his ongoing suit and Manning in his retirement. But before we get to that, I would like to cover a new segment that we're going to do. If my man Chuck would be good enough to give me 6. There it is. There it is. There it is. Introducing a new segment for us. I'm going to give you 6 minutes on a subject also involving the NFL. And my man, Richie Incognito. Richie Incognito became famous in the league for an incident a couple of years ago with the Miami Dolphins. It was a bullying incident and had racial overtones, and well, I mean, not racial overtones. I mean, some things that apparently were blatantly said, so it wasn't so much overtones or suggested. It was what it was. but it did happen. It was real. He took a lot of heat for it. It was between him and another player. A guy who was a rookie, a guy named Jonathan Martin. We kind of all know the story of, now Jonathan Martin's out of the league. Now Richie Incognito is with a different team. He's with the Buffalo Bills, and he's with the Buffalo Bills, and he had a great year this year. Came back, and I thought he should have had every opportunity to come back. I thought the time he missed, even for what he said, and he unequivocally used the N-word and all that kind of good stuff, but even for the time he missed, I thought it was an absurd amount of time and an incredible amount of money for him to miss over what he said. Words are words, and if you're kind of a big dumb guy and a jughead, okay, hey, you are what you are. They're just not handing out penalties in an even fashion. It seems to me there's some guys who are being unnecessarily crucified. So I'm not here to be a supporter of Richie's and say, oh, what Richie did was right and it's a great thing. I'm not here to say that. But I'm just here to say that there's also some other folks who have done some really horrible things and in the same light as what Richie did, and nobody talks about that at all. Like I really struggle with what is it that Richie Incognito did that is so bad that and that was alleged and that was in text messages and/or was alleged to have been said via third party. When we had a guy in Philadelphia named Riley Cooper who came right out and said the N-word, and the whole thing was on video. And he said it multiple times on video, and Philadelphia turned around and handed him a $40 million contract. And the dude sat out for like a weekend. They sent him for a weekend of sensitivity training, supposedly, and then he was back on the field. Meanwhile, Richie Incognito missed like a year. He missed and his salary was like $4 or $5 million or something. Or maybe more than that. Might have been closer to $6 or $8 million. But he missed like a year's worth of salary over dropping a couple of N-bombs. And I'm not a fan of it. But I'm just saying, hit him on the wrist and keep it moving. Hey, Richie, you can't do this anymore. Okay, got it. But I don't see how we get to the point where we make him miss a whole season. And he was vilified. He was vilified at the same kind of level that damn near like a Ray Rice and Adrian Peterson were. I mean, it was crazy. I mean, it was to the point where I personally reached out to Richie's lawyer a couple of times myself to say that, hey, if there's anything I can do to, help dude get back on the field, I'd be more than happy to, step up, provide some sort of counseling, vouch for my man in some way, because I just thought at a certain point, like, it was like the theater of the absurd. Like, how could this be happening to him? And I've got a theory. About it. My theory is this. I believe that there are certain dudes that when they do the wrong thing, particularly relative to this race issue, that if it's a big dude, it seems to me that there's a little bit of a trend, that if it's a big dude and he does something that may be racist or says something that may be racist, then we attack him for being a bully and we give that more weight than the racial issue. And I point to that with both Richie Incognito and with a guy like Terry Hogan, or whatever his real name is, Hulk Hogan. I think it's Terry Hogan or something. But now, there's a little bit of difference between professional wrestling and professional football, but at the end of the day, they're both in the light. They're both athletes, indoor entertainers. But I don't understand how a Richie gets crucified and a Hulk Hogan, like they've not only ended his career, they ended his career. They took him out of the history books of the WWF. I mean, they dismantled his career at a level that you just say to yourself, like, how could his entire career and his entire body of work, everything he's done, whether or not it's helping kids, visiting hospitals, giving money away, entertaining people all around the world. Hulk Hogan had like a 30 or 40-year wrestling career that now people have just, and again, it's not sport, it's, it's theater, it's entertainment. I get it, but it's in that thin line of space now. It's starting to be covered more in sports, and I realize it's still classified by entertainment, so it's not going to be regulated by the government. I got that. But those guys are undeniably athletes also. And some of them even were college wrestlers or what have you. So they're all at least big, strong guys. At least most of them, or they're quick, or somehow they're agile. They are undeniably athletes, regardless of what they're doing, even if it is, pre-scripted. But I just don't understand how you can end Hulk Hogan's career. You can sit Richie Incognito out for a year, and then you can have Riley Cooper take a weekend off. Paid leave, by the way. Paid leave, I believe, even for the weekend. Or if he missed 2 days' work, at most, and then rejoin his team, no fine, no penalty, and everything's good. And I don't understand how Chip Kelly, his coach, who was with the Philadelphia Eagles, how he gets a pass for allowing that to happen, because that's where the real crux of racism does its harm. It's not so much in the one word here or there that someone blatantly says the wrong thing. It's not so much just the harmful word. You can, there's hate speak for sure, but when there's institutionalized racism, people often wonder, well, what is institutionalized racism? Well, the racist act is done by Riley Cooper. We can see it, hear it. Okay, he used the N-word. We saw it on video. We watched him. We saw it. We bag him. We tag him. We know who he is. Got it. The institutionalized racism comes in when the coach rallies around Riley Cooper and says, it's okay, he's our guy. And when the GM of the team rallies around him and says, it's okay, we're going to keep him on the team. And when the owner of the team says, well, I don't necessarily want to really get involved, I guess I'll let the coach and the GM figure it out, which is a complete cop-out. Because if something was said about that owner's nationality, in the words of Keith Jackson, whoa, Nelly, there'd be a whole nother problem. And Riley Cooper would not be on the team. But where I think it's so that's where the institutionalized racism comes in, is that. But I think the bigger issue for me is that there appears to be a double standard in that when something is said wrong and has some sort of racist element to it, when it's a big dude, folks want to take him down like he's a big bully, he's a bad guy. Look at him right there. Let's give him a heavy duty penalty. When it's a little dude, I think there's more room for error, and folks basically give him a pass. And I just think that we've become too comfortable trying to mask racism by trying to say, well, it's this guy being a bully, and bullying is actually a higher crime. And if you see the big guy who's the racist, if you're looking at a guy, it's like seeing Shaq. Not that Shaq is necessarily racist, but if you're looking at racist and you say, okay, well, there's one over there, and it's almost like seeing a Bigfoot, like, okay, well, he's a really big guy, he's really scary, and he's right there. Look, he's right there in the woods. He's that guy. That's one thing. But if you allow yourself to think, so it's rare that you see these really big guys like a Hulk Hogan, like a Richie Incognito, who are doing this. So it's a rare sighting, like seeing a Bigfoot or seeing Shaq. But if all of a sudden, if the guy was like Steph Curry size, so he's 6'1" and he's 170 pounds, so he's same size as a Steph Curry, or he's the same size as a Riley Cooper, well, all of a sudden now the racists could be everywhere, because now they just look like you and me. They just look like everybody. They could be a dime a dozen. They could be running all around the joint. What if there's an infestation? So we're better off identifying it